Hello everyone, we would like to welcome our next speaker, Dr. Sandeep Verma sir. I would like to request Dr. Vicky Kamani sir to please share a token of gratitude with us. I would like to request Dr. Ashutosh Mishra sir to come and introduce our guest.
Good morning, everyone. So, it is a matter of great pleasure to have eminent speaker like Sandeep Verma sir. So it is not possible to introduce him in very few time, but very brief. I am going to introduce him. Professor Sandeep Verma sir has been associated with IIT Kanpur since 1997. At present, Professor Verma sir is leading the Gangawal School of Medical Sciences and Technology at IIT Kanpur. His research interest includes chemical neuroscience, stem cell engineering, new antibiotics, and microfluids detection platforms. With over 230 publications and several patents to his credit, his work has been recognized by Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, Sastra Sena Rao Award in Chemistry and Material Science, Distinguished Alumnus Award of Banaras Hindu University, Goel Prize in Chemical Sciences, Society of Material Chemistry, BAR, Gold Medal, CRSI, Silver Medal, and Prana Jayanti Fellowship, to name a few. He is an elected fellow of Indian National Science Academy, Indian Academy of Science, National Academy of Sciences, and Indian National Academy of Engineering. He is an associate editor of Chemical Communications, RSC, United Kingdom, and serves on the editorial advisory board of Chem Biochem Village publication. He recently started a biotechnology startup, Stublin Biosciences. In addition, he holds honorary adjunct professorship at the School of Agriculture, Biomedicine and Environment, La Trobe University, Melbourne, and the School of Science, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, University, Melbourne, Australia. At present, he is member executive board, Commonwealth Chemistry, United Kingdom, DST INAE Consultative Committee, chairperson of DST Supreme Scheme, and convener of Selection Committee X, interdisciplinary and special engineering field and leadership in academia, R&D and industry. Indian National Academy of Engineering, among many others. He has served as Secretary Science and Engineering Research Board, served Ministry of Science and Technology during 2019 to 22. Professor Verma sir was member PMO constituted vaccine task force for SARS-CoV-2. Member empowered group 1 on emergency management plan and strategy for COVID-19 and chairperson DST committee on coronavirus diagnostics, among other responsibilities. So we are very fortunate that we are getting a chance to listen him as audience. So it is a matter of really great proud, sir. And very welcome, sir. You are very welcome, sir, and thank you very much. Thank you. Bless you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank the organizer, Dr. Mishra, for an invitation. I was very happy to receive it, and despite my real high fever at the moment, I thought that I must uh, honor my commitment. So I am here. So if I break my voice a bit, please don't mind and excuse me. I also thank goes to all the senior colleagues here, all the students, including our director, Professor Asthana, who I just met and had a very nice conversation. very happy to be here. Of course, you are so close to our institute. And what I have chosen to speak on sustainability today is coming from a recent lecture that I have given in India-Taiwan meeting in New Delhi, which is centered around the concepts of sustainable development goals, especially related to energy, climate, and water, and how world is doing, what India is doing, what exactly is the path forward. And maybe two slides I have just chosen to excite you in terms of my own work or our own work at IT Kanpur, because as Dr. Mishra presented, not only we work in quite a number of biotech areas, but have deep interest in alternate sources of energy, especially you all have heard of nucleic acids, right? So how nucleic acids can be used, or the fragments of nucleic acids can be used to create capacitors, how to create or use them as supercapacitors, and such type of intervention, such molecules coming from nucleic acid fragments, how can they be packaged as a battery, as a capacitor? So that kind of unusual thought process is something that we are pursuing at the moment in my laboratory. So looking at, as I just mentioned, that it has long been recognized for last so many years that there are sustainability requirements, and everybody, although we have been hammered with this word quite often, sustainability, but if you look at it deeply, it has a meaning. It has a meaning in context of our growth, in context of our prosperity, and in context of how we see ourselves in next 20 to 30 years. All right. So time won't stop for any one of us. I was like you 30 years back, you would be like me 30 years hence. But the next 30 years, how they are going to be capitalized, and we create that kind of knowledge which would be essential not only for us, but we can share that knowledge with the world, is going to be very critical. And it doesn't come that you just go in a lab and start working on a given problem, because again, that is your problem. But if you look at the context, what is the background where we are headed and where certain requirements are desired, right? So research has to be matched with requirement. Requirements would bring you the value that when a student starts on a problem at a given sort of experimental table, bench, or an equipment, you have to have that clear agenda drawn in your mind. So this is the agenda that has been painted for us by United Nations, the sustainability development goals, which are going to bring us affordable and clean energy, and of course, pure water that should come out of taps. And that's again is our government's initiative. Health is another. Food security. Just imagine the kind of population we have, and you have to believe that each and every pesticide that our farmers use in our fields, bulk of those pesticides are imported. We don't make them. If other countries say we will not give you pesticides, just imagine how are we going to feed ourselves. So the word sustainability is not necessarily related to global level, but even sustenance and local communities or interconnected local communities also becomes important. And that's where we have to learn about how we look at, say, if we start with energy, how do we look at this energy dilemma? We are aware of dilemma, right? As the name suggests, dilemma is die. So there are two choices. Should I do it? Should I not do it? That is dilemma. If there are three choices, we have trilemma. So if you look at this circle, or this, sorry, triangle, which is shown here, we are actually going to an unprecedented effort to reduce our carbon footprint. So we all have heard about it. Let us not use fossil fuels. Let us realize more energy from solar. Let us get renewables, bio, wind, shale, whatnot. And that is what is going to be important as we move from carbon sources to renewables, and look from the standpoint of climate change, from the standpoint of prosperity, because prosperity comes from the fact that you and I may come from families that may afford these tube lights, right? that you have turned on these tube lights. Despite so many light being outside, we still have some 10 tube lights on. But there are families amongst us who may not be able to afford it, right? So economic prosperity doesn't mean that we want to become $1 trillion economy, but economic prosperity also means that a family of using some amount of energy can use the same amount of energy but at a lower cost. That is also prosperity. So when you look at the trilemma, there are three questions. Oh, this is touch screen, is it? So three things come to your mind. One, which is energy security, that you have to be secure. Means tomorrow, if somebody is going to cut your supply of a certain thing, your energy requirement should not depend on, right? If the supply is coming from a certain source or from a certain country. So we have to have self-reliance in generating the capacity that is equivalent to our energy demand. That is energy security, right? If you look at equity, we just talked about equity. You and I may be able to afford something. So, for example, we take shale energy. If it requires 100 rupees to generate 1 megawatt, right? You and I again are able to afford, but somebody may say, I cannot afford it if it is not close to 10 rupees per megawatt, right? So that is equity, means equitable distribution or equitable load of finances that sets our requirement for energy source at a level where everybody can be participating, everybody can use that affordable energy. And then comes environment sustainability. So anything that you do to generate energy should not tip the balance of climate, right? So that is the reason we want to get away from carbon footprints which are debilitating for our environment. So this is the trilemma that we face. Very basic triangular concept, three critical points. And now just imagine whenever you talk about solar cells, when you read about solar cells in, say, your chemical engineering or other these branches, or when in biotechnology you talk about energy generation. So all that should come at the with the underlying of energy sustainability. You cannot have energy while tipping off the scale. So climate impacts are to be studied well, and they have to be looked at very carefully. So look at what is going on around the world, and that is why, because I have stayed in government for almost 4 years in Delhi, working very closely during COVID time in health sector. We are given a lot of flack. That is a story for other time, how we developed COVID vaccine. As sir pointed out, I was participating in COVID development, vaccine development program constituted by the PMO. So how we developed that vaccine while everybody was cursing us that, these guys are not doing anything. You imagine right now, I must tell you, the kind of calamities we face and what we saw in India is our own doing. If we were careful, a lot of people, we would not have lost so many people. We were not cautious. And any such thing, because in those days, all supply lines were cut. We were not, so, but people were trying to force us, please buy our vaccine, give us n number of billions of dollars, take our vaccine, and now our vaccine is much better than everybody else. So basically, you have to look at the picture that who is consuming what is their carbon footprint, and when somebody tells India, you should not use coal, you should not generate enough energy. Look at the cost, what it is coming from. The countries which are in orange and deep maroon red, they are the real culprits. They're using that much energy while we are somewhere here, right? And of course, Africa, the global south is being sort of pushed in one corner that you cannot generate energy through this. You cannot use energy. If there is no energy, there is no economic prosperity, there is no growth. Why are we being pushed in a corner? So you have to show mirror to people when somebody criticizes you, right? You have to show them, hey, look at yourself, what you are doing, then talk to me. This picture is showing mirror to people that, the consumption that you do, where is it coming from? Because if you look, I will have maybe one or two slides on that. So bottom line is that lot less consumption, yet with the kind of population we have, if you look in that context, we are actually doing very well. We are not contributing to the carbon footprint in the world, and that tells us that we are at a good position. Show people the mirror while working on number of solar days which are in India, right? And try to capitalize on such renewables. So the big growth countries, North America, Europe, Australia, right? They are all really, consuming a whole bunch of energy, despite, as it is said, that the number of, or the population of Australia is the number of kids born in UP in a year, or I think it's India in a year. So that kind of population explosion, yet we are, you see, such a light color shade for it. If you look at renewables in power generation, this is only India values, which is good for 31st March 2023, right? So we are doing very well in solar and wind. So when you talk about solar, you all realize that we are talking about photovoltaics, right? You must have read about photo. Lot can be done. Our efficiency could be at 15, 16% at the moment. For every 100% light falling on the ground, we can only capitalize on 15, 16. So what is that material? What are we missing? When we talk about a simple leaf, right? They absorb so much energy. They make their own food. They use that energy to grow. They are happy. They are, everything is going good for us. And for all the knowledge we have, we can only capture 16% of solar, right? And despite not making any food with that energy, you're just trying to we don't even have capacity to store that energy, right? Storage again becomes a problem. So if you look at, in addition to solar and wind, we are getting good into biopower, small hydro, still not getting into shale, etc., because the percentage is quite less. So just imagine the possibility as the population grows and we become the most populous nation at some point of time, and I think, till 2050 we'll grow, then we'll slowly come down or taper off at some level. Lot of distance to be covered, and that's what is tells us that given our surroundings, given the solar days that we observe, it is important that we look at solar energy as one of the most important things for uh, uh, as renewable, right? So you may have heard about all these things. I will not read the details, but I would also, as a former, what I can say, as a former person with the government, I will just tell you that sometimes what we hear on news, on social media, it's actually true. Look at the numbers from, say, 2009 till 2022. It is so dramatic. The way we have capitalized solar cell by some initiatives of the government, and at the moment, the amount of energy that you contribute to your central power grid, it's enormous. It has risen almost, say 14 years back, almost nothing, right? And now to 2022, look at the kind of exponential growth that we have observed. And that tells us that there are viabilities of solar farms. You may have heard that, in Gujarat, we are bringing one of the largest solar farms. And that tells us that some of these photovoltaic research has enormous possibilities, because we would have laid out solar farms. So we can replace the photovoltaics, but we need the right material. We need the right chemical processing of those materials and their integration into batteries or solar cells that can eventually be going in that direction. So solar installation worldwide, now you look at worldwide, now suddenly it looks different, right? Now look at what China is approaching, what we have, and what other countries have. So the growth potential is enormous. If you count the number of solar days versus the subsidies that are being provided if you are in solar cell startups, right? If you want to do solar research, the money being put in, it is enormous just to push people to go into the right direction and create a footprint which can be used, utilized, and sort of capitalized as part of renewables. And this one agency has done a lot of wonders since it was announced in around 2015, right? International Solar Alliance, right? So 120 odd countries have agreed. There is a lot of cross talk between those countries, how best practices can be adopted. what are the best research practices that are to be looked at when somebody does a path-breaking research. And 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 it's basically you are looking at between the countries between the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer. So solar days are important, right? You don't want to get this in England because it's not going to be so useful. Now, clean energy initiatives. If you want to look around India, what is available and what is, we will let her finish her. नहीं, बात करें. So clean energy initiatives. So you look at both upstream and downstream. Downstream means when you are building bottom up. So you are looking at brand new material, integrating into a cell. And top down is when you make a policy. We will have a 100-hectare solar farm, right? It is easy to do that. We will put 2,000 crores for that solar farm. Even easier to do that. Announcements are very easy, right? Uh, Now comes the nuts and bolts. How do you integrate? Where would you put? Where would it keep? And how would you ensure that, the capacities are maintained over a longer period of time? Because this 2,000 crore is nobody's money. It is our money. It is taxpayers' money, right? So that has to come from India-centric innovations because what would work with us will not work with others. So best practices have to be developed in such a way that they are India-centric, bringing in both industry and academia. And you have to develop critical mass of researchers. Means, for example, say in this institute, given whatever level you are in research, if you are working on antibiotics, oh, one person is working on antibiotics. The other guy is working on bioprocess engineering. The third person is working on plant genomics. There is no critical mass. Mass. One, right? Critical mass is 20 people in this institute working on bioprocess, 10 people on antibiotics. So that critical mass at national level can only be constituted or sort of you can come up with the help of top-down sort of innovation when you fund research, etc. And then you have to bring in multi-institutional. So you won't be able to do everything. You have a chemical engineering department, you may be able to do process science, etc. But if it is to be brought to the level of integration, right? Then you need people from other disciplines. You need power people, so power electronics, power from electrical perspectives, and of course, eventually, because of ISA and other places, you would eventually go for international partnerships. So, lot of interconnected interconnections that have to be established when we think that something is good happening in amongst ourselves, right? Even in health, climate, whatever, you just cannot even believe the kind of smaller wheels that are in motion, eventually leading to something very significant. So, what are the 2, 3 different areas of research I wanted to point out because some of you may become interested? One, you must read about thermoelectric energy. So, of course, solar cell would fall under thermoelectrical energy, but there are now further developments where smaller molecules, perovskites, etc., are being increasingly used for thermoelectricity. And of course, these materials they allow direct conversion of thermal energy to electrical energy. So not just light to electrical like solar, but you are talking about if you can heat up something. If something is heated up, the band gaps, etc., are so maintained that you can jump electrons and you can generate electrical energy. And lot of work is going on in this direction. So if you look at India alone, although it will not appear on these pie charts, but now quite a number of academic institutions have made significant impact at international level in coming up with right materials that are going to fall under thermoelectric materials. So if you are interested in energy and energy related problems, thermoelectrics are really interesting. Okay. So I alluded to in the early phase of my talk that I will also tell you one or two slides about my own work. So we work on nucleic acids or nuclear-based batteries. So fragment of nucleic acid, small, 2, 3, 4 nucleotide long fragments, if you attach lithium to them, right? Lithium and nucleic acid fragment, they are able to generate quite a number of batteries with very interesting capacitive properties. What we have done essentially, although we will not tell you the full science here because this is not the place, that if you look at the crystal structures of some of these nucleic acid fragments that we have determined, they are flat sheet-like structures, right? They are flat sheet-like structures. If you dissolve them in one of the solvents like chloroform or tetrahydrofuran, and if you treat them either at room temperature or at 4 degrees centigrade, you are able to get two different types of morphologies that can be observed under electron microscopy. So either you would generate fibers, and these dots are your solvent molecules that are embedded in addition to nucleic acid fragments as well as lithium that has been purposefully impregnated in these short nucleic acid sequences. So one could process it at room temperature. So fun part here is you start with a common precursor, you add a given solvent, you add lithium, then you process it in very many ways, and you follow the morphology. Depending on if you have a sheet, if you have a fiber, you would package it in what is called as a sort of point cell. So you can make a point cell, you can make such kind of setup where lithium foils and the electrolyte that you have prepared can be embedded, and you can eventually go and look at electrochemical or capacitive properties of the material that you have synthesized. Long story short, I mean, what I'm showing you here is one of the best reported, at least from the standpoint of biological molecules. So the reason I'm emphasizing on biological molecules is that they are very green, right? When you talk about your batteries and you throw them out, you don't worry about what has happened to the battery. There are a lot of toxic material that has to be taken care of. It becomes part of our soil and so on and so forth. But if you have nucleic acid, all the remnants of your battery would be either the same nucleic acid or broken down nucleic acid, which is again organic molecule, and lithium. Lithium anyway you use in batteries. So such kind of bio batteries, what we call as bio batteries. So now we have few patents on it, and that's about it. So we have not done much on this aspect, but it is very curious, very interesting that we can go look at such kind of biological material which can be manifested for energy requirement. Water sustainability is important. I don't have to tell you about it. Rather than telling you that water is, I'm sure you have heard about it so many times. Water is not just what we drink alone. The potable water is like minuscule compared to all the junk that we have on the planet Earth. But we have to also remember that in addition to potable water, drinkable water, whatever you want to call, the SDGs reflect on what are the various water bodies across the planet, right? It could be, wetlands, rivers, aquifers, this and that, and all what would be constituted under water research. And you would have, when you talk about somebody working in water, it could be as simple as detecting arsenic in water, that is also water research. Glaciers, how we are contaminating our glaciers with black carbon, that is also water related research, and many more. So it definitely requires, because these rivers would flow across boundaries, right? So it would go from one country to other. We are only related to some, say, 3 to 4 countries connect our border, but if you go to Africa, etc., so many countries, so many rivers flow from one. So you really need to build international cooperation between countries, bilateral, trilateral, multilateral cooperation to not only look at these contamination, but also build capacity so that those guys who are working on research, I mean, working on that particular water duct or, harvesting, whatever, they can work together. And of course, if you look at many of these view graphics, they're easily available on United Nations site. So I usually prefer taking any view graphics that is a disclaimer from UN and related agencies, because there are so many people take data, make these beautiful images, but you don't know what kind of numerical data they have used to create the. So whenever you also study, read, or want to access, you try to go to the mother source, which is United Nations data, which is more So I'll just tell you a few technologies that I find very interesting and also disruptive, right? One which is coming from my own colleague in IT Kanpur is called as Padmavati. So this particular, oh man, so this torch-like contraption, right? This torch-like contraption is a part of one of our startups, and it looks the way it is shown there. And also, I would like to sort of highlight what is here. So here is the real constituent of Padmavati, where if you cannot read, I'll tell you this: you have a battery, you have a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Water sample is to be put here. Some optical printed PCBs are there. Then you have test strip. You can put a test strip with water that you want to sample. The fun part here is that it would immediately give you result. Not only that, you can carry it as if you are an explorer, you are going around and you are thirsty, you see an aquifer and you want to drink water, you can put a drop. The data coming out of it, what is the purity, gets connected to a base station, say 100 kilometers away. So you can do sampling, you can do testing, you can populate the data through IoT and Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi enabled systems, and that all is part of Padmavati. And you can use it for household, field level. Field means you distribute 20 torches like this. People are going in the rural areas or in far flexed areas, and they put one drop of water, and Padmavati would send the data back. How much arsenic, how much iron, how much this, that. So this is these are disruptions at what you call a startup level. If you read this, if you just read this, you require a battery, a printed circuit board, some water definitely, and of course, how to send the sample. So just imagine that knowledge of these individual components may have with all of us, but to put it together is what is a product, disruptive product. It's a commercial, almost a commercial product. It is commercialized, and you can look it up in on the internet, and you can find out the people involved. If you want to contribute, if you want to have Padmavati 2.0, right? The next and next to next version, or it could be used for anything. Why water, right? Why small analytes? It could be pesticides. You want to detect pesticides in water. You want to detect pathogens in water, whether this water has bacteria or whether it is this infested, that infested. So all that can be checked, or it could be better, or you could have a better version. What I really like is from IT Madras, and this is again totally commercial. It is success, and the guy who invented this got Padma Shri from government, Professor T. Pradeep. And it's a very simple setup. You see, two boxes, and it is based on nanoscale iron oxo compound. So you have all studied about nanoscience. You may even have heard of nanoparticles, etc. So iron oxy nanoparticles and chitosan, they have been put together in this box, and the outcome is almost 99.99, 100% pure water from highly contaminated water, right? So, and it is extremely cheap, and it is called Amrit. Amrit is for small communities, means if you want only, if you're going to consume 50 liters of water, right? And it's a commercial technology which you can again look up, and a mature technology that has come out as a product. So, the reason I'm showing you this is that you can go back and reverse engineer that what exactly was done to make Amrit or Padmavati, right? Now, there are many more applications one can imagine. It could even be used for, say, Padmavati. I'll give you one random example. It could be used for testing milk, right? We all get spurious milk around Holi, Diwali, and all that, right? And even otherwise, right? So if I can put a drop of milk and figure out how much calcium, how much this, that, suddenly array, this is all shampoo, right? So you can scale it up. Then reverse engineering and scale up. That is going to be the next frontier when you look at smaller innovations coming out of the reason I wanted to show you is that I was somewhat involved in this and long. I mean, again, I don't want to take you to the entire site, but just look at these pebbles. These pebbles look like your regular marbles that you would decorate around a plant or a pot, right? But they are all technologically enhanced pebbles. These are not simple pebbles. They have full circuitry and design inside. And what you do is you will just throw 100 pebbles in a river, and each pebble is IoT enabled. So when river flows over these pebbles, what you would get is continuous monitoring of water, right? Just like stones in a river, these pebbles are put in a river. These are synthetic pebbles put in a river. They are electronically enabled so that when water flows over them, you keep collecting the data of purity of water, contamination, etc. Again, IoT enabled, it would be connecting to your base station, and you would know that say in month of July in Rishikesh, in that river, suddenly there was a spike in pesticides or arsenic or any heavy metal, then you can go and catch that industry which is supposed to be releasing such kind of bad things. So you don't have to be there, right? Padmavati means you are going there and you are taking sample, blah blah blah. Here you just dump the pebbles, and as long as they're active, as long as their battery life exists or their circuitry doesn't go bad, you will be so. River quality monitoring can be done by such type of pebble shaped sensors. So these are sensors, right? You could just now imagine what else can you do with it, right? BOD, COD. Have you read about BOD, COD, right? Yes, no. I mean, no, they will not float. So you can see there. The idea is they should not be washed away with water. So they are heavy enough to be settled as a normal pebble in free flowing river. It, no, so it would, I mean, it would require some kind of engineering. You can then put a floater, floater, and that jolly like thing. You can put 20 pebbles, and it will just float. So depending on how deep you want to go, you want to stay close to surface, you want to go 2 meters, you want to be at the floor, at the bed of river. So depending on requirement, you can devise these things. So this is all very simple as long as he's get. And again, the reason you are they show smartphones is that not necessarily it has to go to a base camp. It can immediately report in your handheld. It could be an Android or iPhone. That is also done, and a lot of variations are being now tested on these things. So, with this little overview, I wanted to share with you some excitements that are developing in the areas that we just talked about, and of course, you are I mean, you are almost getting mature enough to think of your own research problems and make some of these disruptions, innovations as your hope in terms of packaging things and creating a device or a sensor. It's not that easy. I mean, it's not that difficult. I mean, if you have the right kind of tools, etc., the first few steps can be taken. And I wish all of you the very best. Thanks again to Dr. Mishra for having me here. And I see my colleague here. So, you giving a lecture? No. Achha. So, Dr. Poonam and I work together. So, we work side by side and so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. I would like to invite Professor P.K. Kamani, sir, to have a thank you.
We have written anybody else interested can share the views. No? Sir, please present a vote of thank you. That is the beauty of FDP, we can say that we have a lot of things to learn from different faculty members who are coming from outside. And I think most of the persons who are present here might have not gone through all the items which sir has told. I am also fortunate that at this age I am learning all these things. And sir, I am really very much thankful to you who have explained so many things which are beyond our imagination. It was a very burning topic: energy, climate, and water. These three are a very burning topic, and our Prime Minister has also given a stress on these topics, how to develop the solar energy.
and how to keep our environment sustainable. Then you also told about the nucleic acid to develop the supercapacitor. Research should be matched with requirement. That is also very important. It should not be a bookish research. It should match with the requirement. Then you also told us about the pesticides which are being imported and the use of pesticide. We should try to avoid as far as possible, or we should develop the pesticides which are organic in nature. You also told about the energy dilemma, feeling towards nature. So that is what very important. Your feeling towards nature, you just showed the picture of India. No? Normally the people don't talk about this. They talk about the other country that they are how they are developing. But just you showed the that graph where India is still very light in color, where the other country which are dark in color means they are consuming lots of energy. And India, but every time we talk of India, India is consuming lots of this energy, and India is biggest consumer, something like that. No, we always tell something bad about India, but your intention was very clear that we should have a picture of India also. And we are also very much thankful that you had been associated with this COVID duration. You were associated to develop that particular medicine. And you also told that so many people were saying that let us buy our medicine, but then to you develop. That was also a sort of dedication towards the nation. Uh, the innovation should be India centric. We should keep our India because our culture is different than other culture, as you told. So, no, this is also very important. And the research work or the work should be multi-institutional. Yesterday also, Professor and J. Rajkumar sir, he told about the agriculture and technology. The two things were mixed. And even the chemical engineering person, they don't know how to mix up the agriculture. No, they don't know about the agriculture. So it should be a multi-institutional research, you know. And the thermoelectric energy that also we have heard the first time, sir. Biobattery. This biobattery also very new thing, and no doubt it will sustain our environment because the lithium and the pure the chemical batteries they are very harmful for nature and for the environment. Then you also told about the water research that is Padmavati. We have heard first time, and we have also seen that taught so simple and so easy to carry, and also told about the Amrit. It's really a Amrit, you can say. That's why probably the name has been given. The Amrit. So we are so much thankful to sir. We have learned a lot of things, and my sincere thank and best wishes for your happy, healthy, and prosperous long life. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Ashutosh to present a moment to Sandeep.
Now it's tea break. After that we